Okay, we are live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sandusky City Schools Winter Virtual Community Forum. We look forward tonight to sharing with you an update on important, relevant topics occurring in the Sandusky City Schools. Thank you for joining us. It is my pleasure to introduce the president of the Board of Education for the Sandusky City Schools. Please welcome Mrs. Martha Murray.
Good evening. On behalf of my fellow board members, Mr. Tom Patterson, Ms. Kate Fargo, Ms. Ebony Sizemore, and Mrs. Bridget Green Churchwell, I am glad that you are able to join us for the community forum tonight. I just wanted to mention three quick things that I'm looking forward to this semester in school. And the biggest and the best is getting the kids back in the buildings so they can enjoy the new buildings, they can be with their teachers, and they can be with their friends. The second thing that I'm really looking forward to learning about is Parent University. This is something that I have been in favor of for quite some time, and I'm glad that we're doing it. I think it's very important. And finally, Envision 2030, which is a forward-looking plan for our district. Without a plan, I don't believe you can move forward. So I'm glad that we're putting forward this plan. Thank you for your support, and please share any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Murray, and to all of our members of the Board of Education. We're very fortunate in the Sandusky City Schools to have excellent board governance and board leadership, and I think it's reflected in all the success that we see occurring in the Sandusky City Schools. We're proud of the progress we've made, but we also acknowledge that there's much room for growth and opportunity. And tonight, as part of our Winter Community Forum, we'll be sharing some of the things that Mrs. Murray mentioned, along with other relevant topics important for parents and community. We'll have about 30 minutes left in our program for open Q&A on any topic that we discuss or any topic of your choosing. If you do have a personal question about a specific student, we will take that question offline and respond very specifically to your question in a customized kind of way. Thank you again for joining us. My task tonight is to talk a little bit about the goals for our forum, and then a little bit about the outline of some of our major goals for 2021. I'm also joined tonight by members of the senior leadership team, and those individuals will be joining me as part of our presentation. So again, thank you for joining us tonight. We welcome your communication and feedback. That we have a 24-hour commitment to return all email and phone communication, 7 business days to return and respond to all mailed correspondence and communication. And we encourage you, if you haven't done so, to please sign up for our Instant Connect and check our website for daily updates on all district-related matters. We have a very active web communications program here in the district, and that's a very effective way for you to stay engaged with us. We acknowledge all of our parents, our grandparents, and guardians, and your feedback, and citizens. Your feedback is very much welcome. So check also our monthly newsletter, which usually comes out around the end of the month, comes out of our marketing and communications department. And it will give you a brief overview of relevant topics and contact numbers and emails and links to very important documents for the Sandusky City Schools. We will be identifying tonight some of our 2021 priorities, including our organizational, financial, and our long-range planning work. And we will update you on our re-entry activities in the district as well. In addition, we will make sure that you are aware of all of our COVID-19 protocols every day at 4 p.m. If you're signed up for our communications, you will receive a text message that will give you a daily update on all things relevant to COVID-19 in the district. And we think that's a very effective way to communicate, and it keeps you updated in real time. And we will continue to emphasize the importance of communication and feedback. We're really always looking for ways in which we can expand communication. The Board of Education has made that one of the goals they'd like me to continue working on, is expanding our communication mechanisms and techniques. And so your feedback is really important. Now let's talk a little bit about 2021. I know for some time it didn't look like we might make it to 2021, but we are glad to be here, and we're trying to look forward to a productive and successful school year. We are excited, as President Murray mentioned, to be back in school. We started our in-person learning option last week, and we will be maintaining that option throughout the rest of the current academic year. Some of the priorities and goals that we have for 2021 includes a bit of a pivot and a reprioritizing of our academic and student achievement priorities. Obviously and appropriately, we've been consumed with COVID-19 and safety protocols and cleaning solutions and temperature checks and things of that nature. While those things are still important and will still be a part of our work, we do want to begin to reprioritize and shift our conversation to the academic priorities. The reentry activities you'll hear about tonight. You will also hear about our 10-year strategic plan called Envision 2030, building capacity and strengthening innovation. You will also hear this evening about the completion of our Building Better Dreams facility initiative. I am proud to say that our Sandusky Intermediate School and our Sandusky Primary School are both completed. Obviously, students and faculty are in the buildings, and our third building, the Hancock site, we're scheduled to be opening that facility about a little over a year from now. So we're excited about our 3 new buildings, the $70 million facilities project that you so graciously supported in 2016. We will also be talking about building our bench strength. And what that means is, as we're planning our future, we want to make sure we have capable internal leaders who can assume positions of responsibility to make sure that our plans and our ideas and our work will continue. A 6th goal is to initiate successful strategies to build the aquatic center at Sandusky High School. If you are a regular reader of the Sandusky Register, you know that we have re-engaged Sandusky High School, and part of our goal this year is to make sure we get that effort, assist the Sandusky Education Foundation team in expanding that opportunity for all of our students. We're still committed to ensuring that all 3rd grade students in the district learn how to swim as part of their physical education curriculum. And then finally, we want to expand our parent communication opportunities and emphasis on technology, something that I refer to as humanware. The hardware, obviously, is the technology and some of the quantifiable things. We want to make sure we're touching each other in appropriate and productive ways to expand our partnership with our students and our families. So those are some of our major goals for the year. Following me, I am pleased to introduce our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Valicia Cade, who will give you an update on some of our academic priorities and related teaching and learning initiatives for 2021. Dr. Cade?
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Good evening, President Murray, members of the board, colleagues, community members, and all Blue Streaks. It gives me pleasure to share with you our academic plans for this school year, and as we continue on our journey of looking out 10 years from now around envisioning 2030. Our priorities for the remainder of the school year continue to be to advance a culture of collaborative, data-driven decision-making, supported by technology to inform instructional needs of our students. We're focusing steadfast on growing every child, regardless if your child is below proficiency or above. It is our vision to grow every child and to narrow academic gaps that may have come about due to the interruptions in education. We want to also continue to aid in our community's capacity to effectively integrate the use of technology to augment learning. As a result of the COVID pandemic, we've seen significant shifts in our educational environment, in which we know now that technology has become the new bedrock of learning. With that, we will be taking a three-pronged approach. We will be focusing on our students as they transition back to their classrooms. They will continue to access lessons in their Google Classroom and push back assignments in their Google Classrooms when appropriate. Our teachers will continue to use professional development. As we continue to build their capacity, we see that there is a role, an appropriate role, to continue the utilization of technology. For our parents, we want to continue to strengthen our communication with parents. If it's anything that this COVID pandemic has taught us, is that we must have strong partnerships with our families, and we must continue to work on strengthening and deepening our parents' understanding of what this new educational environment looks like. So we'll continue in aiding and deepening the understanding of what your child is experiencing while they're here in school. Let me preference this by saying that as a part of our parent universities that our board president referenced, we want to provide for parents the appropriate tools to create an environment at home that is conducive to learning. It is not the expectation of Sandusky City Schools that parents will teach their children, although we do support the premise that parents are their children's first teachers. We want parents to have the tools to supplement what it is that we're doing at home to create the environment that's conducive to learning. So we will continue after this initial parent university. We will be planning for summer learning camps, not just for our students. We will be having summer school programs for students. We will also have what we call learning adult camps, in which our staff will have an opportunity to take advantage of reflecting on their practice and selecting opportunities to deepen their professional knowledge of different areas in their practice. But we will also have a parent university this summer. Again, we will continue to have a three-pronged approach with building leaders, gathering data to plan for academic programs for our students. We're having those discussions. There have been ongoing discussions with our building principals around their academic 5K goals. District office leaders are gathering data. Today at our Curriculum and Professional Development Advisory meeting, we discussed some of the feedback from our most recent professional development. We'll be surveying our teachers. Our principals will be talking with their teachers, using data as the linchpin to plan for professional learning opportunities for our staff. The district will continue gathering data to prepare for our parent trainings as we continue on this journey. Our parent university information. For your convenience, you can visit our website. We do have a parent university hub, but for your convenience, right now today, we do have a Google Classroom parent training going on for those parents who are still trying to understand how your children access their assignments and how your teachers push those graded assignments back to them. We will have ongoing Google training. Today, there's a Google training. There'll be another Google training. Here is some information that's outlined for that. You go on our website, click on the site and register, and that's how you can attend our parent universities. They're free for all of our parents. Priorities for the remainder of the school year. We, as a part of the Envisioning 2030, we've launched and we will be launching an engagement process of Envisioning 2030 using our new instructional model to engage our students, our staff, and parents in a conversation centered on a portrait of a graduate of 2030. What are the skills, knowledge, and disposition that our students will need as graduates of 2030? We're going to take our work a step further, and we're going to begin to have conversations with our staff about what is a portrait of a teacher of 2030. What are the skill sets, the knowledge, and the dispositions that have changed as a result of this new educational landscape? And then finally, we're going to have that conversation with our educational leaders, with our principals, with our district office administrators who are involved in teaching and learning. It's important to understand that education has changed significantly in just a few months. The progress that we've made with utilizing technology will continue to use going forward. But we believe strongly in Sandusky City Schools. There is nothing that can replace the interactions between a highly effective teacher and a child in a face-to-face environment. But we will continue to advance in our evolution of building our digital ecosystem as we continue on this journey. Important dates that are coming up. We have staff professional development days, in which this year we're providing early release dates for students in preschool through 6th grade and delayed start days for students through 7th and 12th grade on February the 23rd, 24th, March the 9th and the 10th, and on March the 11th. You will receive a direct communication from your child's principal regarding the start and the end time of those days. We will also post that information on our website. We will also do one call. We will push that out on the app in advance, and you will have all of the specifics before February the 23rd. Our goal is to outline what our offerings will be for summer programming at the end of February. Right now, our principals and our schools are preparing for MAP testing, which is February the 1st. MAP is an assessment. It is a diagnostic assessment that drills down and tells us exactly what areas your child is strong in terms of their knowledge in the area of reading and math, and what areas your child may need additional support. We call these diagnostic assessments. We will administer this diagnostic assessment in February, and then we will finalize our summer school offerings using that data and additional data sources to identify and target students appropriately. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Stephen Sturgill, our Chief of Staff and Transformational Officer.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cade, and I am really excited to start the discussion around Envision 2030, building capacity and strengthening innovation. The plan is designed to provide a structural framework for the Sandusky City Schools through 2030. One of the goals of this plan was to build on success of the past innovative initiatives, and progressively pursue a plan designed to engage, inspire, motivate, and promote continued growth and advancement for our students and the families. If you go to our main website, you can see to the right there that you can secure a copy of the plan by visiting our district website. If you see there, tabs 2030 Vision, click on it, and you could go to the documents. So why continue to talk about why is 2030 important? Well, the plan addresses students' support, academic achievement, mental and physical well-being, technology readiness, post-secondary options, and health and community connections. Next slide. It ensures that all SCS programs are relevant, competitive, cutting edge, and worthy of continuation. All right. So over the year, you'll see more information coming out about the us evaluating the effectiveness of our goals from 1 to 3. So wow, kindergarten registration. Talking about the Blue Street class of 2034. It's kind of exciting that we have started registration for kindergarten. And as you can see, I'm excited to look at our main website here for enrollment information. you could go there, hit the tab registration and enrollment, and it'll take you to our OneView portal. OneView is our registration online process. You do not need to come into the buildings anymore. Again, go to registration and enrollment, click on OneView, and go through the process where you can register to be a Blue Streak online. So let's talk about kindergarten registration. Currently, if you're a preschool student and a parent, you are already a Blue Streak. We're excited that you're here. No need to do anything else but to get on OneView when we ask you to, and update your information in the OneView portal. Also, on February 23rd, we're going to have an information session at the Sandusky Early Learning Academy from 1 to 6, where we'll provide families with information about preschool, kindergarten, but also if you would like to come in and use a computer and have us teach you how to use OneView, come on in and we will get you on a computer and go through the registration process. So let's talk about operations, building better dreams. I'm so excited, and I know Doc is, because he gets to see that beautiful building going up every day. The new site for the Sandusky Early Learning Academy at the Hancock site. If you get a chance, please go by and see the progress that is being made. It's a wonderful, wonderful project, and we are excited about how it's coming along and ready for those students to get in there. So everybody wants to know about COVID-19 and our safety standards. Well, I can tell you that our safety standards have not changed. We have been working with the Erie County Health Department in collaboration with them hand in hand, and they've been partners with us throughout this process. We have provided masks to students and staffs, gloves, thermometers, hand sanitizer, and sanitizing wipes. Our custodians have a rigorous cleaning schedule in every building, and they respond immediately to the confirmation of a positive COVID case. And like Doc said, at 4 p.m., the district sends out communication about any positive COVID case in the district. One thing that you'll see over the next couple of weeks is an increase of non-academic supports. Again, if you get a chance, we have a health center at Sandusky High School in collaboration with Family Health Services. So please, to get a chance, please use that site for any of your health or actually mental and physical health needs. Also, our social workers are working on some care bags for students. That will be monthly, where we are able to provide monthly care bags for our families. We know that right now is a difficult time for our families, and we want to provide those supports for the families. All right, so I get the pleasure to introduce our CFO and treasurer, Mr. Jeff Hall.
Thank you, Dr. Sturgill, and good evening, everyone. So just a few minutes to a brief overview of really what I presented here in the last month or so regarding the fiscal side of our fantastic school district. And really, it's just a little overview of our revenues and expenses and what their implications are on our cash balances, which when it comes to forecasting the financial aspect of our district, cash is king, and the bottom line is really what me and in my office are most interested in helping for the good of the order here at the district. So just as a brief overview, what you have there in front of you there on the screen is simply a profit and loss statement if those of you in the private sector. But for a nonprofit like our school district, revenues minus expenses equal cash balance. And the circle, the red circle at the bottom of the page, really just gives you an overview of a year over year. We are currently in the fiscal year 21, which includes calendar years 20 and 21 of the school district. So we go by fiscal year here, which ends 6/30 of 21. That's the fiscal year 21, 22, 23, and 24. So it just it goes to show you what the future brings and the future holds. And really what this screen is telling you is our revenues, our expenses actually are outdistancing our revenues, which is fairly common when it comes to a finite budget offered by the state of Ohio and the way that public school funding is arranged or is set. So what do we do with this information? Really, my primary objective, as well as my colleagues and every staff member here in the district, is to manage our bottom line so that we can prolong the need to go back to voters. And it has been, I believe, about 9 years so far since we've had to ask for a new operating levy. So it's been quite long, and we look to prolong that time before we ever have to ask anybody for additional monies out of their hard-earned pocketbook. The next slide really just shows you a little a different look at the same information. It shows a linear digression of how our revenues minus our expenses have brought about a deficit spend for the first time. Last school year was the first time it happened in many moons. But really what this shows you is something that I watch on a daily, if not monthly, and then 2 times a year in my biennial forecast. Biannual forecast. I do bring up in November and May, I do update these numbers because it is a fluid, it's a forecast. Just as the weather is a forecast and we never quite know what tomorrow holds, but best we can do is predict. It's a little easier to predict tomorrow than it is a year or 2 from now. But what this shows you is a linear digression of our deficit spending and what do we do with this information? Well, basically, directional trends are really what keeps me going on a day-to-day basis and assist the board and our leadership to make decisions. What you have here is a directional trend, as well as the information really is if there are no significant modifications with regards to any expense reduction or revenue changes, it will continue. So that's really obviously what we're here to do. And as the Chief Fiscal Officer, my objective is to make sure that this information is very well known and how do we make decisions going forward. It's easier to manage the bottom line first than go back and seek additional revenue. And then finally, as I mentioned, the school district has not required a new operating since 2012. I'll end on some really good news. When it came to my department, that's very new. Governor DeWine, through executive order here this last few days, immediately offered back to all public school districts about $160 million for their biennial budgets that was taken away, announced last May. Our district actually has regained about 300,000 of the 570,000 that was cut this year. And so the numbers you have there in front of you have changed already. So I look forward to updating you at the most opportune time. And I wish everybody a good evening. Dr. Sanders.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Hall. And this point in the in our forum, we're going to move to the open Q&A, and we have a series of questions from people who are watching. We thank you for being a part of our program this evening. I start out by saying that if you have a very specific question about your child, we will not be discussing individual children tonight in an open forum. But if you know your principal's name, your principals are all watching tonight, and they're able to observe. And I'll ask our principals as you're going through the questions and you see a parent whose name you recognize, we ask that you would communicate with them directly. So what I think I'll do tonight is I think I'll run down through the questions as they are presented one by one, and then ask my team members to respond to those as we go forward. So there's a question from Sarah about what with the information coming out that wearing a mask isn't enough, what are your plans since the information has just been released? So I think Dr. Sturgill, this is a question about updates from the CDC, updates from the governor's office about mask and other safety standards. Can you respond to Sarah's question?
Yes, Sarah, and I would love to. Our guidance really comes from the Erie County Health Department. Again, they have been great partners with us and working with us. So when they talk to us daily, and when they tell us that we need to double the mask, we will. And as if it comes out that way.
Yeah, so that direction on anything that's related to safety protocols that have medical related elements to it, we're going to be taking directly the advice from the Erie County Health Department and following it there. We are back in school, as you well know, since last Tuesday. We're monitoring each situation day by day. And as we shared originally, our commitment is to stay in school. We'll be making decisions on a case-by-case basis with the appropriate safety regards in place. There's a question about a parent whose son is being marked absent. And apparently someone that spoke to you about that, Dr. Sturgill. And so can you provide us some clarity on attendance and protocols for being marked absent from school?
Right. I mean, pretty much law. If you're not in attendance, whether it be online or at school, we have the responsibility to mark that he's being either there, tardy, or absent. We don't have a choice with that. But we can work with some parents if they, for instance, where the Digital Learn Academy does a little difference when his kids log in, then we're able to take attendance. But we cannot, we have to, by law, have attendance on every student.
Now, if there is an extenuating circumstance, Dr. Sturgill, what should a parent do in terms of finding out very specific details? Maybe there's something happening in the home that's unique,
Yes.
and there's unique circumstances. How might they go about that?
Yeah, I work with the principal of that building, and most of the time the principal will contact me and we try to work those details out, Dr. Sanders.
There's another question from Sarah about the current third grade students and whether or not they'll have the opportunity this year to learn to swim. And if not, will they have the opportunity next year? This year, it is unlikely, given the pandemic and other scheduling dynamics that will implement the third grade swimming criteria. Obviously, it's primarily connected to the new pool. We'll have to review that for the upcoming school year. We do want to make the third grade swimming prerequisite a prerequisite for the third grade curriculum. And so as we will probably get a little bit more feedback on that for the coming year, but I'd imagine this year we're going to stick pretty close to our current schedule throughout June, and then we can make some decisions going forward. There's a question from another parent, and this has to do with, we've had shared conversations in the past about transparency on a number of individuals who are quarantined within the district, to include staff and students, not positive, but quarantine. I think this is a consistent question from this person here. So Dr. Sturgill, once again, can you go over the district's protocol relative to how we share out information about COVID-19 and other relevant data that I'm aware of this on our website?
Right. Well, under the governor's guidance, we are only supposed to report positive cases within the district. Let's talk about a little bit about the process and how this happens. Positive cases are really black and white. We get the information from Erie County Health Department about the individuals who are positive in writing. All right, but let me give you an example of how a quarantine process works and how flexible and fluid it is. We had a school where the possibility of 3 to 4 classrooms might be quarantined on a Thursday. And we worked with Erie County Health Department about the possibility of those classrooms being quarantined. All right. Worked with them on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. All right. And then found out that we didn't have to quarantine those 3 to 4 classrooms. So it's very fluid and very flexible. We do keep the documentation when it is given to us in writing from the Erie County Health Department. So it's a fluid, moving target. Now we do keep it. It's something that we do not, by law, have to report out, but we could if we need to, Dr. Sanders. But it's something that's going to take us a week. It's going to be a week behind because we're constantly catching up with the documentation with the Erie County Health Department.
I think it's also important to mention that parents of students who are in those impacted classes are communicated with directly. So for those of you who are interested or concerned or just kind of nosy, you won't get that information in a direct kind of way. That's information candidly most relevant for the impacted students and families. But we do have a commitment to make sure that we share that information in as many formats as we can. And so if you are not getting information in a way that you think you need to get it, you can call me directly. My number is 419-988-5800. 984-1000 if you're not getting a specific answer or something, and we'll be glad to respond to you in a timely manner and provide for you that information that you are requesting. There was a question about from Monica about what's going on with state testing, and a question about it is not our expectation that we teach our children. Oh, I think that was a comment relative to a comment Dr. Cade made about while it's not the parents' sort of employment job, if you will, to be a teacher, we do acknowledge that with the pandemic, that the parent role was shifted dramatically. We acknowledge that. I think our position is that, you know, we have teachers who are trained to teach, and it's our expectation that we will do our job in an effective way. But the reality is, I think as technology is changing, is really going to the whole educational landscape being modified. Dr. K, can you give us an update on the status of state testing for this year and what our expectations, or at least what the plans are for the 21-22 school year?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sanders. State testing will take place this year. As far as the legislative body, the Ohio Department of Education will not be ranking schools. They will not be issuing accountability scores. However, we will be preparing for state testing, and state testing is still in progress, and we will continue until we hear something from the Department of Education that tells us that state testing has been suspended. So yes, we will be taking state tests in the spring. We are preparing for that. And at this point, the only legislation has come out indicating that the Ohio Department of Education will not be issuing a grade for districts.
Thank you, Dr. K. There was a question about from Monica about being more concerned about the here and now and not so much with 2030. Let me talk about that a little bit. Good organizations address issues both in the current and what's to come. We don't want to be the kind of organization that 2 or 3 years down the line, we're trying to catch up with something that we can plan for and anticipate now. So we can walk and chew gum at the same time. In other words, we're in a position to address the COVID and the pandemic matters now. We're making ourselves available in this format and other formats to respond to any question that you might have. And so our position is that you want us to be a well vetted and thoughtful and reflective in our practice and to plan for both what's now and for what is to come. And that's the position that we're taking. There was another comment by Monica about make them answer you. Good job. Nobody has to run us down to answer questions. If you have a question about any aspect of what we're doing, what you think we ought to be doing, suggestions on how we can do things better, not only is this format an effective way to do it, but you can call me, 419-984-1000. We'll get you to the right person to answer any question that you have and address any concerns. I would encourage you to check our website because it's loaded with tons and tons of information about dates and early release dates and what times are being modified for things to come. And these are on there weeks and months in advance. They're not done at the last minute. So parents who are planning ahead for 2 or 3 weeks down the line, we are prepared to assist and to help you. And again, feel free to call your building principal. Talk to the building secretary. They usually have this information right at their desk, and they are prepared to help you. The format that we use for any community forum is to take about 25 minutes or so and provide an overview of what we're doing so that everyone who is watching us from a different perspective of knowledge and awareness. So we take some time at the beginning of each presentation to say, here's the plan, here's the process, here's how we do things. And then we use the remainder of the time to talk very specifically about questions and comments that you might have. And we want to continue to do that. There's a question about what time will students get out that day. I think they're referencing early release. Dr. K, did you cover that earlier?
Yes, Dr. Sturgill and I and the principals have a upcoming meeting to solidify and finalize those days and times. And that information will be distributed to families by those building leaders.
Okay. There's another question about, I'm concerned about the term vision of the district, but we have had a lot of immediate concerns and guidance needed to help our students and staff. I'm not exactly sure what that question is, but I guess, I'm sorry.
Is what you just covered.
Okay.
Can we talk about it?
Sure, go
Yeah,
ahead, Dr. Sturgeon.
So we started this process, what do you think, Doctor? Almost a year and a half ago of working on the Vision 2030. So a lot of this work was done pre-pandemic. So we were looking almost 2 years ago about, actually Dr. Sanders' vision about 10 years from now, 2 years ago. So a lot of this came together right before the pandemic hit us. But I would ask people to look at
I put the
first year goals.
data longer, but
Please look at those first year goals. You'll see that we are working on those first year goals and actually coming up 2 and 3. So they are relevant and they are accurate as of today.
And I'm going to ask my team, the principals and others who are connected through Zoom, to make sure you silence your phone so that we don't hear what you're having for dinner tonight. So to make sure that we keep aware. Are there other questions that have come in?
Yeah.
KK, you want to give us?
Can we have an update on the status of new laptops?
Okay, great question. The status of new laptops. I think we've had that conversation a few times. I know Mr. Eckenrode is on and Dr. Sturgill is on. So why don't we give Eric a chance?
Okay. All right, good.
Eckenrode, can you give us an update on that?
yes, I can. We started receiving them Friday afternoon, so we've gotten 150 of them, and the rest are going to be rolling in this week. So it's not
And
long
what's our
now.
plan for distribution, Mr. Eckenrode?
Distribution will happen over the next, I would give them 2 weeks to get everything asset tagged and everything lined up and apps loaded. So I would say around February 15th.
Yeah, I think we all panic a second. Eric, I know that just again, for those folks who may be watching this for the first time, as I understand it, you're replacing the older laptops that were initially distributed. So if a student has an older laptop, it is likely that they're going to get supplied with a new one here in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, we're replacing all older models except the 2 newer ones. So anyone that has an older laptop will receive a new one.
And for my classmate, a grandmother who saw me the other day, was inquiring about a cord to a laptop that wasn't functioning. Eric, remind us again what process we grandparents should use to get equipment replaced or fixed or repaired or updated or whatever that is to make it work properly.
They can either email at techhelp@SCS-K12.net, or you can call our hotline at 419-984-1012.
Yeah, that's the hotline number you really want to make sure you know about and can call. Mr. Eckenrode takes care of all of our technology infrastructure related matters in the district, does a terrific job. He's been really busy, as you might imagine, the last year, but we're very proud of Mr. Eckenrode and his team who've done a terrific job. Other questions, Ms. Pugh?
When will we let Sandusky Aquatics start back up for elementary students? So the elementary swim program.
Dr. Sturgill, you know any update on the elementary swim activities?
I do not, Doc. Now, are we going to have it? Absolutely. I don't know the dates yet, but we are currently having our elementary program. So swimming is one of them, and it will happen.
The person who's in charge of that is named Mr. Todd Downing. His office is located in the athletic office at the high school. We'll get a phone number.
Yeah.
Okay, get me a phone number, or somebody get me a phone number. And we'll get that phone number out. They can call that to get an update. Our commitment, obviously, as one of the things I should mention is that for January, February, and March, the first quarter of the year, as we're trying to transition out of the pandemic, we're trying to use kind of a 60-40 format for activities. So the first 3 months, we're kind of using the 60-40 to represent the majority of time that we will do more things virtual, like 60% virtual and then 40% in person. And then in April, May, and June, as we close the school year, we'll kind of shift that same 60-40, but more 60-40 in the more in-person activity. So as we continue through the rest of the academic year, you'll see some shifting of responsibilities, shifting of activities. Our goal is to do what we've always done. And so it's important that you just contact us and we'll let you know. Do we have a number?
Yep, 419-984-1076. And it's in the comments as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Why aren't temperatures being taken at the beginning of school days?
All right, so I saw that question earlier. I must have skipped it over. So when we started out the school year, we were doing temperature checks throughout the district. Once we were out of school this last time and re-entered, our team reassessed that activity and determined that we were not going to continue that practice. And so at the different buildings, we are not doing individual temperature checks. However, if a student doesn't feel well, if a student is ill, I was at the intermediate school last Thursday, a kid was complaining about his stomach aching. The nurse was on site, and as we have them throughout the district, and they were able to not just do a temperature check, but to handle it on an individual kind of basis. As we are shifting to the in-person model and transitioning through the first quarter, we've modified that. But if there's any student that doesn't feel well or would like to have their temperature checked, the nurses and other staff are available at the building. Now, we do ask parents to do a kind of a home check. And you may not have a thermostat or a thermometer rather, but you can do an assessment, if you will, and you do this as parents, kind of a visual check of your child. You know, do they feel well? Should they go to school that day? And we've encouraged parents that if a child doesn't feel well, to not send them. And we've sent the same message to our adult employees as well as we try to transition through this challenging period. So we're not doing temperature checks effective last Tuesday. We will review that matter as we go forward. When we talk to principals and faculty, we felt that we could let that policy go, and we've done that for the last 6 or 7 days.
All right. How are students going to make up or go over material that was sent home at the primary building for the 4 weeks of virtual learning? And additionally, about the primary building, why were no students or no parents from the primary building notified when there was a positive case?
Okay, Dr. Sturgill can speak to the communications protocol for all parents, not just the primary building. And then the other part, first part of the question, KK, had to do with
making up material that was sent home during the 4 weeks of virtual learning.
Okay.
Or covering that material that was sent.
Okay, covering material for the virtual period, and how do we, I guess, catch up with that when the kids are back? So, Dr. Sturgill, can you help us with that?
Yes, it's been our practice and policy throughout this pandemic that we do one communication per day at 4 p.m. And it goes out by text, by mail, and also on our website. You could go look on our website for those numbers from the past.
So just for clarity, you know, if you want to get an update on what the district's status is around COVID, then you can go if you're signed up on our text messaging system, every day at 4 p.m., you will get a text. And you click on it and it'll give you the specific details of what happened that day. And then if you want more detail, you can go to our website and there's more comprehensive data there. The other question had to do though with the gap of time between what happened at the virtual period and
covering the material that was sent home during that 4 weeks.
Okay, so I'm not sure I understood. Read that question one more
Yep.
time. So between Dr. Kate and Dr. Sturgill and if Mrs. Moratori is on, I know she was on earlier, she might be able to respond. So read the question again.
Yep. How are you going to make up or go over the material sent home the 4 weeks of virtual learning for the primary school? That's
Okay.
the first question.
All right, so the question, just let me restate it, so I'm hearing it correctly. The work that was sent home, the question is, how will that be assessed, or how will that would be made up or addressed now that they're back in school? So if Dr. Kate or Dr. Sturgill or Mrs. Moratori, if anyone's on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to answer that question, and Ms. Moratori can certainly chime in. During virtual instruction, there were opportunities for support where there was live instruction, and teachers, I would assume, had office hours to provide support around assignments that were assigned for students. And I believe that each of the schools had a different approach to their virtual delivery of instruction, but there were live teacher supports provided during virtual instruction. Ms. Moratori, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, if the students were on for live instruction, they received all of their instruction. So if the students were on, then the instruction was given and they did not miss a beat.
And if there's an issue with timeline, you know, it's been the practice of our building principals to work with families around helping their kids get the work done within reason, right? You know, in terms of getting the work done. But there was live support provided during virtual instruction in the district.
What I would suggest, thank you, Dr. Cade, and thank you, Mrs. Moratori. What I would suggest, again, if a parent has a very specific question about any aspect of their child's learning experience, what they experienced, what they didn't experience, questions about how work is addressed or attendance matters, please contact our principals directly. They can provide you very detailed guidance at their particular building. And then if you have a larger district-wide question, again, you can call me directly at 419-984-1000. My office will disseminate that information to the right department, and we'll get you a response to your question in a timely manner. Ms. Pugh?
Can we provide an insight to what professional development sessions are covering in the near future, and how this will result in a direct benefit to our staff and students during the pandemic?
That's a great question. Dr. Cade, did you hear that question?
Yes, absolutely. One of the tenets in our SEED framework is social emotional supports. On the early release day, our teachers will continue to receive trauma-informed training. This is training that helps our teachers to identify when a child is demonstrating symptoms of trauma. It's also and so that they can make the appropriate referrals. For this particular day, our teachers continue to receive intensive training around the science of reading and phonemic awareness and phonics to address deficits in reading. In addition to that, as our teachers have different instructional tools, they need to learn how to effectively utilize those tools, whether it's in a face-to-face setting or in a virtual setting. In addition, our teachers are constantly learning and deepening their understanding around the use of different kinds of data so that they can prescribe or they can design instruction that meets our children where they are. So this particular upcoming training on February the 23rd is really centered on trauma-informed training.
And I would encourage any staff member, it sounded like that was a staff-related question. I just encourage any staff member, again, contact your principal directly. They are aware of all the professional development training days and activities. And Dr. K's office obviously can respond to more district-wide related questions about any aspect of professional development. I am pleased that Dr. K's team is working on a multi-year professional development platform. So we'll have a kind of a multi-tier approach to this going forward. So we'll know well in advance. And we have the ability to make adjustments and modifications to professional training as well. Next question.
Why do students need to commit to doing the full quarter online or in person when Science and case numbers are always changing. So why do you have to commit for a whole quarter?
All right, the question, Dr. Sturgill, is why are we requiring parents to commit to a certain learning modality for the quarter, given the fact that COVID numbers and other dynamics change?
Sure, I would love to answer that. So I think is the type of instruction they are getting and what the teacher is teaching over that period. So having consistency is important. And Dr. Cade, you could chime in if you would like to, but consistency is important over a period of time. And keep going back and forth, we would not have consistent teaching. And that person might be learning different things at different times. So if they're going from COVID home-based learning back to in-person learning and back. So it's important that we stay consistent and work with that particular teacher over a period of time.
Absolutely. The relationship between the child and the teacher is one aspect, and the teacher's ability to really know the student. That takes time. And that inconsistency is disruptive to children, that they're constantly having to readjust to a new group of students and readjust to a teacher. It's very disruptive. So we want to minimize those levels of disruption, in addition to having the teacher have a deep understanding from constantly interacting with the child and making assessments in the interactions and looking at assessment data. It's important for them to get a holistic view of a child's needs.
Very good, thank you. Ms. P?
Is it possible for classes to be offered later in the day for students who have to go to daycare and can't necessarily log on at a specific time so their attendance is not impacted?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Did you hear that question about offering online support in the afternoon versus the traditional school hours? I know we haven't discussed that as a particular policy, but on the surface, it sounds like something that we might want to think about going forward. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Doc, and I'll start off, and Dr. Cade, if you want to. So it's a little bit different when we do COVID home-based learning, because there is a schedule of learning that's going on, and that teacher is live. That teacher is working with those students online. It is very difficult for that teacher to go on at a different time. Now, at the Digital Learning Center, that does happen. Students are able to log on at different times during the day because it is a little bit at your pace type of curriculum.
Yeah, I think the COVID pandemic gives us an opportunity to reimagine what we want to create. As far as it pertains to teachers teaching at different times, they have a collective bargaining agreement with the district. And those are issues that would have to be bargained and discussed with the teachers union. We don't have the authority to create a schedule with different start times outside of that collective bargaining conversation. So that is certainly something that we might want to explore for the future. I've been in districts with staggered start times for different programs to make those adjustments for the needs of our family and some of our students that may need a different start time for their learning. But you know, we do have to respect our teachers' contract, and that's something that we would explore in the future.
Yeah, I like the idea of being flexible and innovative if we can, and particularly where there is trends that would be respectful of what our families are experiencing. That makes some sense to me. Ms. Pugh, other questions?
One of our viewers suggested that when Pete Shade participated in the forum this past summer, it was very helpful. Can we do something like that again and have him join us?
We certainly can. I will say Mr. Shade is joining us next month for our first Superintendent's Executive Leadership Academy students at the high school. So our high school students will get an opportunity to listen to Mr. Shade, give an update on the process and the dynamics occurring around health and wellness in our community. And we can certainly invite him back. I know it was the board's directive to have him at the previous meeting. And I know Mr. Shade has made himself more than available to respond. And I think it would be helpful. I'll confer with that board president and determine an appropriate time to make that happen.
Is it possible to reevaluate the 7:30 a.m. start time for our youngest students for next year?
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Sturgill?
Yes, good timing. So yes, our operations team and the principals are actually meeting on Thursday to start the conversation and to look at how it went this year for all students across the district. So we're going to start that discussion about the time of school, busing, and how it went.
And just keep in mind, so for the parent who thinks it's a little early, someone else thinks it's a little later, and we have so many buses and logistics and stuff to work through. The team does a good job, but if you have some thoughts and perspectives about start times for certain ages, please send in information in. We'd love to review it as we are making our recommendations for the 21-22 school year. We've got about a minute left in our program. So the way we'll take one more question, and then if there are additional questions that have not been addressed, our team will go through those one by one and respond to the individual person. And then I'll ask Ms. Pugh if she'll post those on our website in the appropriate place so people can see what others can see what their responses have been. So one last question, and then we'll wrap up for this evening.
Can we discuss going back to 8 classes instead of 7 at the high school level?
Okay, so this is a question about high school schedules. Probably a similar answer to the 7:30 start time. I'll answer that one. I'll give my chiefs a break. So every year, every couple of years, Mr. Talbot, members of the high school team, faculty, counselors review the schedule, the times, the number of classes. To make sure we meet with all of the ODE guidelines for appropriate time on task. So everything is always up for review. There may be various amounts of research about which model works best for which age group in terms of student achievement. But I do know the group is always open to looking at ways in which to do it. That's counterbalanced candidly against staffing, and really is counterbalanced against student interest in terms of the kind of courses they want to take for electives. Our high school is still a comprehensive high school, which means that there are multiple options and multiple classes that students can take. And that's counted in the course of the day as well. So that's sort of the answer. That may not have been comprehensive enough. So I'll see if Dr. Sturgill or Dr. K want to add any additional content to that.
No, Doc, you did a great job.
No,
Thank
thank you, Mr. Talbot.
So Mr. Talbot, who's our great high school principal, if you've got suggestions, I know he will be very open to doing it. As we close out our community forum, virtual community forum, for our winter session, this is not the only time that you have to communicate with us. I just want to reiterate again, if you have a question, a very specific question, I want to encourage you to contact your building principal. If you don't know where else to call my office, 419-984-1000. My office will direct you to the right department and division that can respond to your question. If you have a question, you can email us. You can email me directly about any question in the district. My email address is ask.sanders@scs-k12.net, askdrsanders@scs-k12.net, and we'll be happy to respond to that. I want to remind you to make sure you sign up for the Instant Connect and check our website daily for updates, as it is voluminous in nature. It has a lot of information. And finally, if you are signed up, if we have your email, you are automatically signed up to receive our monthly newsletter that will give you updated information as we go along. I want to thank our board president, Mrs. Murray, members of our school board, and senior leadership team, our principals, and all faculty and staff who continue to work with us as we transition through these amazing and challenging times. We appreciate your support. And as always, we say, go Blue Streaks. Have a great evening, everyone.